It's been really something. This church has had its days, and it's showing. I'm now seeing it. I even haven't been here for a while myself, but it's really showing. And it would be nice one day to see what small stuff we can do to maintain a face again for my grandpa's church.
As we've kind of seen, there's a bit of damage, there's some leaks. What would it mean to you and the community for us to take care of the roof and get everything back into working order?
Oh, it would be so great. It would be just awesome. We never had the money to renovate it or to fix it up, so we just try and keep it the best way we can.
So I'm here with Chief Roy Whitney, One Spot. You are the chief out here on the Tsuut'ina land.
Pleased to hear that this is an initiative that will help the community repair the church. Thank you very much for the opportunity to discuss this with Rebel News.
With the help of our passionate and principled viewers at Rebel News, we are going to crowdfund a new roof for this church building. While radicals and progressives out there are attacking places of worship, we're going to do our very best to support those places of worship. If you want to help, go to repairthechurch.com. Adam Soos here for Rebel News, and I am on location at Our Lady of Peace Roman Catholic Church here on First Nations land out of the Tsuut'ina Nation. You'll very likely recall that this is the church we had the opportunity to do some work on, and I wanted to come back here and do a bit of a recap a year later. Now, at the time that we undertook this project, you'll likely recall that it was not too long after the purported and now crumbling allegations that 215 graves were discovered at the Kamloops Residential School. Those reports have seriously been called into question, but they spurred a bigoted onslaught of attacks, almost 70, against Christian places of worship in this country, with everything ranging from severe vandalism to arson taking place. Many churches were in fact lost altogether. We wanted to speak to Indigenous communities to garner their perspective both on the attacks taking place at churches and, at the time, the alleged discoveries of these mass graves. And in seeking out those conversations, we met Ruby Starlight.
Well, I do. I have a grandfather again who built a church in Tsuut'ina since 1964, and we still have our Catholic church. It's called Our Lady of Peace, and I myself was called out to work for my grandfather's church. And I've been working for years, actually, on behalf of the calling, and I believe it's a real beautiful calling today to work for the Lord.
Ruby condemned the callous acts of hatred that were taking place against Christian communities across this country and proudly shared her story with us. She invited us to meet with her and her uncle Bruce out here at Tsuut'ina Nation land at Our Lady of Peace Church, a church, in fact, that her own grandfather helped build. We jumped at the opportunity and rushed out here to meet them.
Prayer is prayer. God is God. The house of God differs from all of us. Mm-hmm. And, to me, respect the church. It's an institution of Creator, not the man that stands in front of the pulpit, mm-hmm. Not him. You don't pray to him when you go in there. Mm-hmm. You pray to God. So it's God's house. You got to respect it, and you have to know that, we respect it. The elders, we still respect it.
It's been really something. This church has had its days, and it's showing. I'm now seeing it. I even haven't been here for a while myself, but it's really showing. And it would be nice one day to see what small stuff we can do to maintain a face again for my grandpa's church. It would be nice. I would like to try and start either trying to maintain that relationship again with my grandpa's church's congregation people, mm-hmm. and show them and share with them maybe an insight we can all do together to work towards a good way to heal and try and restore our own place of ground.
Being out here at the church reminded us of the nearly 70 instances where other places of worship had been targeted either by arson or vandalism, targeted by categorical hate crimes, targeted by pure acts of bigotry, and shockingly government officials who were quick to condemn acts of vandalism at other denominations and worship spaces, well, they were relatively silent when it came to the mass attacks on Christian places of worship. But there is serious and substantial fire damage to this building in the city. The great tragedy is for the Vietnamese community here. Many of them escaped Vietnam, escaping persecution at the hands of communists there. They've arrived in Canada, they've arrived in Calgary seeking a new life. And this is what they've been greeted with: arson at their church. This is precisely what they were attempting to escape. Trudeau was one of the slowest to reply, and even when it came to the residential school discoveries, he could do little more than pose for selfies while people were suffering. It was more virtue signaling and no action from Justin Trudeau.
It's been really something. This church has had its days, and it's showing. I'm now seeing it. I even haven't been here for a while myself, but it's really showing. And it would be nice one day to see what small stuff we can do to maintain a face again for my grandpa's church.
As we've kind of seen, there's a bit of damage, there's some leaks. What would it mean to you and the community for us to take care of the roof and get everything back into working order?
Oh, it would be so great. It would be just awesome. We never had the money to renovate it or to fix it up, so we just try and keep it the best way we can.
So I'm here with Chief Roy Whitney, One Spot. You are the chief out here on the Tsuut'ina land.
Pleased to hear that this is an initiative that will help the community repair the church. Thank you very much for the opportunity to discuss this with Rebel News.
With the help of our passionate and principled viewers at Rebel News, we are going to crowdfund a new roof for this church building. While radicals and progressives out there are attacking places of worship, we're going to do our very best to support those places of worship. Unlike these politicians, we wanted to do something. We wanted to take action and, on at least a small level, help this local community preserve and protect their space of worship. And thanks to your incredible generosity, today we begin work on the roof, replacing the roof at the Tsuut'ina Our Lady of Peace Church right behind us. We're so excited. Thank you so much for your generosity, and we're going to continue to bring you updates throughout the day as the work gets done. So work is well underway here. We're still waiting for our shingles and supplies to arrive, but the guys from Advanced Level Roofing are taking the current roof off and getting everything prepared for the new roof to go down. When all was said and done, building behind me had some windows replaced, had a pest control plan in place that looks great from what I'm seeing around here, and ultimately they had a brand new roof on this church which prevented leaks and water damage that were starting to build up inside the building. And beyond this material support that was only possible thanks to your donations at repairthechurch.com, a Christian community felt that their plight had been heard. They felt acknowledged, and they felt appreciative of the fact that somebody had actually come out here and made a difference. I wish that repairing a roof and fixing one church could make amends for the traumas caused by the residential schools, could alleviate the suffering caused by the acts of vandalism and arson against Christian communities across this country, and could right so many of the wrongs that we have seen, both from the legacy of residential schools and from the violent response to the debunked mass graves narrative. I wish that this action could resolve all of that, but frankly, I know it can't. I understand that no solitary action can rectify all of the wrongs that have taken place. No individual can take that all entirely upon themselves. But what I do know is that this quantifiable action that we took let a community know that they had been listened to, and let a community know that some folks, when they commit to helping them, well, they'll follow up on that commitment. They'll honor that commitment, come out here and do what they said they were going to do. So what next? What do we do to address some of the serious concerns facing these communities today and now? Well, I suggest we can learn something from the example, the fortunate opportunity, in fact, that we had here at Tsuut'ina Nation. I think we need to listen to communities, see what they need, and take action. And from the conversation I've had with many people over the past few years, I have learned that clean water is the preeminent issue facing not only Indigenous people, but Canadians. This is a national crisis that needs to be addressed. We can't have any more broken promises and committees struck and million-dollar deals going to engineering firms who fail to address this fundamental issue. We need people with boots on the ground making a difference, making a change, and addressing the clean water crisis once and for all. From onset to completion, the work that we did here, understanding that it is relatively minor compared to a massive water project, but took less than 1 month. That includes simply having the idea from our conversation with Ruby Starlight at the onset to funding and completing all of the work here. Now, a massive water cleaning project is by an order of magnitudes more work than that. But when we think about the fact that there have been Indigenous communities, First Nations communities, with long-term water boil advisories in effect since 1995, and when we look at the massive amounts of funds that have been invested in these projects, with communities still lacking access to clean water, there's only a couple of possibilities. One is that the government is totally inept. The other is that the government is totally corrupt. And the final and very likely probable one is that they're totally inept and totally corrupt. When we called for your help to fix this church at repairthechurch.com, you stepped up. It took us an afternoon to exceed our fundraising goal, and that enabled us to do additional work here to help this community. Now I'm calling on you to enact that same passionate fervor in defense of Indigenous communities who do not have clean drinking water to this very day. I want you to go to cleanwaternow.ca, sign our petition. And beyond that, I'm encouraging you to get 10 friends to sign that petition as well. The petition is at about 10,000 signatures now, which is far too few. We need to get this petition way up there. We need to get countless Canadians to sign off and say that they stand in unity with the Indigenous communities who have received a raw deal for too long. We need clean water for these communities, and we need it now. Go to cleanwaternow.ca if you agree. I want you to pause for just a moment and think about the reality being faced by some Indigenous Canadians today. There are children in this country who cannot turn on their tap and trust that the water coming out of it is drinkable. There are Indigenous children in this country who cannot bathe more than once a week because the water that they are using is toxic or carcinogenic and causes aggressive reactions on their skin. This is absolutely unacceptable and a fundamental national crisis that must be addressed. I'm urging you again to consider going to cleanwaternow.ca and signing our petition.